I'm really excited to introduce our next speaker, who is our first presenter from Iceland. And Gudlaug, would you like to come to the stage? And Gudlaug is going to talk to us about eating with dignity and exploring how eating can improve people's lives with ALS.
Good afternoon. Like Rachel said, my name is Gudlaug, Gisladóttir, and I am a dietitian from Iceland. Today, I like to tell you from the result from my master thesis, Eating with Dignity, exploring ways to improve eating for people with ALS. The body needs to be in a good nutritional state to be able to function normally, and that is where healthy and nutritious food and regular meals play an important role. Meals also play an important role in psychosocial well-being. Enjoying a meal with others is based on togetherness and is a big part in connecting people and being part of the environment in a larger context, whether it is with the family or friends. Meals in a good company can bring joy and happiness, also and no less in people with ALS. Therefore, appearance of food and the way meals is served can have a direct impact on appetite and nutritional status. When a change in diet is needed, it can turn everyday habits and social life can be turned upside down with a less appetite. Studies have shown that 80% of people with ALS develop dysphagia during some point in the course of the disease, regardless of whether it begins bulbar or limbs. It is hard for people with dysphagia to eat and at the same time to meet their energy and protein needs, especially when the meal is not with the right texture. Having a dysphagia can be life-threatening as there is a high risk of aspiration when people eat and drink. Other symptoms of ALS include difficulty chewing and preparing a bolus for swallowing due to weakness of the tongue and the facial muscles. In addition, constipation, increased salvia, and mucus production can affect food intake, and then arm paralysis occur. It can lead to less food intake as the people feel like they have lost their independence and the food environment changes and takes on a new form. All of these factors increase the risk of malnutrition. Studies show that malnutrition is common in people with ALS. Weight loss and decrease in body mass index are associated with shorter survival, whereas higher BMI predicts longer survival. Loss of appetite is one of the symptoms leading to malnutrition that happens when people eat too little to meet their energy and protein needs. Muscle atrophy is one of the symptoms of ALS that itself cannot be prevented. However, the muscle atrophy will be accelerated if people do not meet their energy and protein needs. There are many reasons for this. For instance, if people do not consider their food appealing, this is often the case with pure food. It is believed that people with ALS have an increased energy requirement at some point in the disease, which is caused by hypermetabolism, which can increase the risk of malnutrition. Nutritional therapy consists of 3 types of feeding administration: oral nutrition, enteral and parenteral nutrition. This feeding can be used separately or together at the same time. Nutritionists encourage people to eat by mouth for as long as possible because research have shown that quality of life increases and is also related to the sense of taste, and eating with others has a positive effect on digestion and well-being. This is an example of nutritional therapy when eating by mouth and can prevent malnutrition and weight loss. That is, energy and protein-enriched diet and nutritional supplements. The right texture of the food that suits each time and could be regular diet, soft or pure food. Malted pure food that is palatable, requires less effort to eat, is safer to swallow, and prevents fatigue and long meals. Other factors that are important to consider is the right cutlery can also make mealtimes more comfortable and minimize effort of eating. Eating with hands, finger food, could be suitable for some people. This photo is an example of pure food as it is most often produced and served today in Iceland. It is often difficult for people to recognize the food that is served both visually and by taste, and therefore many decline the meal. Molded pure diet means food that is poured into a smooth paste that is placed in a silicone form and frozen until needed. Molded pure food on a plate looks like a regular food. It has a great significance and is very important for people with ALS and dysphagia to have meals that is palatable and looks like others are eating at the same table. When preparing molded pure food, then it is important to use a good food processor and silicone form. Also important to use recipes that have been tasted and adapted to the changing texture of the food in terms of taste and a color quality. The first aim was to increase the knowledge of the eating experiences and the eating environment of people with ALS when pure diet is needed. The second aim was to identify issues to increase eating-related well-being of people with ALS. They triangulate the perspectives from different stakeholders. We conducted 3 focus group interviews with healthcare professionals and service providers. You can see the professions of the participant in the table displayed. Moreover, we interviewed people with ALS and their spouses and observed the eating environment at home. All the interviews and observation were audio recorded and transcribed. We used inductive content analysis to analyze the data. We presented a model that we constructed from our findings that demonstrated dynamic interaction between different categories. One overarching theme was generated. eating with dignity during ALS being a step ahead of time, which contained 3 sub-themes. A, physical and emotional impact of eating, loss of eating abilities, and seeking a personal adjustment to a downward trajectory. B, social impact of eating, attitudes and assistance from others, meaningful social events, and maintaining dignity. C, context-related feature, the setting of eating, access to equipment and healthcare, financial and other support. The results show the urgency of implementing viable solutions to optimize eating-related well-being for people with ALS. And solutions should seek to balance eating to stay alive versus eating as a quality living. The factors related to sub-themes A, B, and C describes important factors in those who need to change their regular diet to pure food. Here comes example from sub-themes A. It really rocks with the foundation of life when eating is unsafe and you gradually need to stop eating and drinking. The ability to eat normally has a huge effect on your self-image. 1 week I could eat meat, the next week everything needed to be chopped. I would have helped a lot if delicious, pure food had been ready, available, and home delivered. But now I'm past this because I can't eat anything anymore. As a healthcare professional, we need to delimit the ramification. We need to support the abilities that people with ALS still and help them through the grieving of not being able to eat as before. They will become malnourished, and if we do not do anything. Here comes example from sub-theme B. Social impact of eating. The social loss is the most important one for me. I cannot fully participate in birthdays and other gatherings. I am there, but I'm not like other guests. When I try to drink coffee, half of goes out. Also, when I eat, I take tiny bites. It is so energy consuming. When I chew, I sometimes just need to stop chewing and concentrate on breathing. Here comes an example from sub-theme C. After seeing this, you realize what is possible to do, and you start to wonder why this isn't prioritized. It is just a matter of quality of life to eat food that looks well, tastes well, and that you will really enjoy with all of your senses. Not just eating food without any identity. People and the system also need to recognize that making attractive and well-tasting pure food takes more work and it costs more than when making usual spoons. We just need to recognize this and provide enough resource because that is worthy an effort of the cost. Participants' ideas. Our result are in line with international research which indicate that much can be done to improve food environment for people with swallowing difficulties. Supply and a good access to molded pure diet is very important, especially healthcare institutions, nursing homes, supermarkets, and when it comes to home food delivery. There is also a need for increased awareness in associated, especially among people with swallowing difficulties and their families, healthcare professionals, and those who produce and serve pure diet. There is a need for education, clear policy, and quality indicators. There is an urgent need for people with ALS and swallowing difficulty to have access to molded pure diet that meets the energy and nutrition needs and fulfill the modern requirements. Participants' ideas for improvement were grouped into 3 categories, which are healthcare institution and food environment, homemade molded pure food, and solution in the community. As you can see in the table on the right, where participants came up with a number of suggestions for improvement. I will mention one example for each category that I find most interesting. Number 1, the first category, having yearly molded pure day at the hospital and nursing homes where both patient and staff are offering delicious molded pure diet. Category 2, offer cooking classes and teach people with ALS and their families to cook molded pure food. Category 3, encourage restaurants to offer at least 1 molded pure meal on the menu. The take-home message, much can be done to improve the food environment of people with ALS. For instance, increase the use of attractive molded pure diets in institutions. Awareness and education need to be established and policy clarified. Access for people with ALS to delicious and high quality of food in the short time they can eat is needed straight away as part of routine care strategy. Our model provides a basis for change healthcare practice to reach the goal. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Gudlaug. I think you can never underestimate the importance of good nutrition and how people feel from being well fed, and it affects every aspect of their lives. Is there anybody with a question for Gudlaug? Yes, Helen.
Thank you. I was wondering if you had any of the people with ALS talking about their willingness to take risks. So in other words, knowing that something wasn't right for them to do or right for them to have, but they still wanted to do it, and they did it.
Are you talking about the texture of the food?
Yes.
Yeah, I think the ALS patient, they don't want to eat the pure food that is offered. So it is hard for them to change, to go from a regular or soft diet to the pure food. And I feel like the pure food is missing. They go for soft, and then they go into like supplements, and then to feeding. And that is so important a period when you maybe can eat pure food, but they have to look like a meal, regular meals on the plate. Yes. Was that clear? Yeah.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? I'll have a question about the molds. How do you get hold of these molds? Where are they available?
They are available. There are a lot of companies here in the United States that sell these forms, or these molds. And so we are not selling it in Iceland, not still, but preparing a work to do that. Because it's hard to tell people to eat pure food, nice-looking food if we don't have the resources.
Yes.
So after this study, we are starting to work to make this available.
Lovely.
You know.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.